followers recently asked me about tips for moving to New York City. So I thought I would share with you really quickly my tips for moving to the city. I hope you find them helpful. These are just from my experience. If your experience is otherwise, let me know. But let's get right into it. My first suggestion would be to let go of this notion that you are going to find your dream apartment the first time you move to New York. I think too many people come in with that expectation and it really hurts them because it's a lot harder than they expect. They're not really used to how crappy the New York City housing market is. And what's really important is that to find that dream apartment, most people won't tell you that it takes a lot of time. And I'm not saying, oh, just 1 week or 2 weeks. No, I mean several months. This current apartment that I'm living in, my favorite apartment yet so far, took me solidly 4 months to find. And it wasn't for lack of inventory. There was a lot of inventory on the market. I just had to take a lot of time, go to multiple viewings a day, multiple days in multiple neighborhoods, and be willing to walk away from over a dozen different apartments I saw, not including the ones that I saw that I just knew from the start, no, they were not going to be the ones for me. And so I think if you let go of that romanticized idea, it'll make it that much better. And you also just don't know what you want in your first apartment. You may think you know, but until you've actually lived with or without either that setup, that layout, those amenities, those appliances, whatever, you won't actually really know. Number two, I don't recommend paying broker fees. One, most of the time, brokers are not really giving you the super exclusive listings. A lot of times, they're still the same ones you can find on Street Easy because a lot of landlords list with a lot of brokers. Some go out of their way and they do give you really cool apartments that normally are not on the open market or before they go on the market or small, like, niche type of housing, whatever. But if you don't already know that person and you don't want to pay an arm and a leg or you have better uses for your money, I still don't believe in doing so. I still think you can get a really good quality apartment without them. And on top of that, the calculation is based on saving money by getting a better apartment that's cheaper in the rent you pay, and over time, even with paying the fee, it ends up cheaper than the other apartments. But that's not really true. If you move after a year, you just lost thousands of dollars because broker fees are now 10, I would say on average 10 to 12%. I'm going to insert the math on doing it for, let's say, an apartment that was $1,500 a month versus 1,700 with a built-in fee or whatever, and you can see why I really don't think it's in your best interest. Overall, if you move, you just lose all that money. And when you don't pay a fee, if it's built in, it's much easier to pay that over the course of 12 months than upfront. So it's much more accessible for you. Two, if it's paid by the landlord, you don't have to pay it. And if you like that place, you stay and it's still cheaper. If you don't like it, you easily move and you're not, you know, quaking or pissing yourself because you're like, oh my God, I paid this broker almost $2,000. I paid this broker almost $3,000 and I hate this place and I'm going to leave and I have to just throw out all that money. My third is always check HPD online. They're the Housing Preservation and Development Agency. What they do is their online service. You can go and search the exact building, and it will tell you all the open violations that building has, the litigation, who they've sued, who they've had to evict, and any of that if it's happening. Why I like to check that is a lot of places will have nothing, but many places you'll see violations where it says roaches or rodents or broken doors or faulty laundry room or lead paint, mold, and sometimes more benign things like, okay, washer not working here, whatever. But you don't need to go view an apartment in a bedbug building or in a roach infested building if you can check online and be like, wow, people have complained about this. Let me not go there. And here's the deal, people in New York don't complain like that. Contrary to what people think, if a place has violations on HPD, probably everybody in that building is experiencing it, and only one or two people reported it. Probably because a lot of people are scared. They need the apartment. They don't have the money to move, so they're not going to complain. They're just going to deal with it, or they're just going to up and quietly move. Very few people complain. So if you see the complaint, you know it's bad. Get out of there. Don't go. Number four, know your priorities. Is it access to a subway line? Is it proximity to work? Is it proximity to your friends? This actually does matter. People think it doesn't, but it does, especially if you hang out with your friends a lot. All your friends live in Williamsburg or Bed-Stuy, or they all live, in the Bronx, and you chose to live 45 minutes away. You chose to live in Queens or Manhattan or Jersey City. And if you choose to do that, but you know you always go out, no matter how far it is not a problem. You're going to leave your house. Fine. If you know you're not going to leave your house if it's more than 30 minutes away, but you really want to see your friends and you want to go out, or you're going to be depressed if you're not social, perhaps you have to prioritize that borough that your friends are in. Or maybe not even the borough, but just actual transportation. Because just because you live in the same borough does not mean it's actually close. There are parts of Brooklyn that take farther to get to each other, like an hour, versus coming in from Manhattan, which could take 20, 30, 40, maybe even 10, depending on where it is. So actually check the subway lines. Don't just think, oh, because we're in the same borough, we're close. But also don't think, oh, it's only 45 minutes on the train. We'll still see each other. Probably not if you don't actually go out that often without the push. And the trains are complicated. Something that says 45 minutes, you need a budget at least an hour, especially if the line is a wonky line. Not all lines are equal. One, two, three, four, five, six, more consistent. The R, more consistent. N, the N plays games. The N could come right away one day, 10 minutes the next day, 20 minutes the next day. You don't know. And there are other lines like the J and Z who, no, they're ghost. They are never where they are supposed to be when they say. So you need to research the lines. Like I said, I think this is five. Don't be ashamed to live in Manhattan. I think a lot of people these days come into the city and they're like, well, oh, you live in Manhattan? I live in Brooklyn. Brooklyn is a great borough. Brooklyn has bussin' food, amazing people, amazing vibes. But you are not edgy or special or super cool because you moved to Brooklyn. Like, first of all, bitch, you live in fucking Williamsburg, or you live in like Brooklyn Heights or Borum Hill or wherever the fuck. Like, you are not that edgy. You're not in the heart of Brooklyn. Or I know some of y'all these days, you'll be going deep, you'll be in Bed-Stuy, Flatbush, fine. Go to Brooklyn because it makes sense for you. You like the neighborhood, you like the vibe, you like the people. Don't go because you want a certain appearance. If you want to live in Manhattan, you're not made for living in Manhattan. There's a reason people like living in Manhattan. I lived there for several years. It's special. So many things happen there. It's something that honestly feels really good when you do it, when you first move here and when you're young. And then when you kind of are with it, kind of a little bit ready to have more space or explore other boroughs or have a little bit quieter of a place to go back to and live, hit up Queens, hit up Brooklyn, hit up Bronx, hell, even hit up Jersey. I'm not against Jersey. What I'm saying is live where you want to live. Don't be afraid of being called mid or not being cool enough or not having a cool enough IG. No. I also think it's important that when you are apartment hunting, you are assertive and confident and you are willing to negotiate. It doesn't always work, but when it does, it's amazing. And you can negotiate on the price, you in terms of the rent charge per month. You can negotiate whether or not you get a month free, length of your lease. I feel like those are the most common items I see negotiated on. What will help to negotiate is moving during non peak seasons and having something to kind of offer to push the landlord to want to accept. Less people move to New York during those time periods, so landlords are much more desperate to fill their inventory. And just by the act of looking, that gives you leverage. But also, you can use your move in time. Landlords want somebody really quick. Okay, so you can be like, I will move in this week, or I will move in 2 days from now, or tomorrow. if you take $100 off the lease, if you take 50, if you take 200, 150, and be ready to walk away. Because if they say no and you just say, okay, I'll take it, you're just reinforcing the system where they say no and they collect the rent that they want to collect because they know you're going to cave. Versus when I said no to a past apartment I was looking at, the realtor came crawling back to me, being like, hey, we still haven't filled it. Are you interested? We'll take what you said off, or we'll even take 150 off. So, no. And that's what I mean by you need time. Again, if you don't have time, you can't do all this. But if you do have time, be ready to walk away. There's always something else waiting for you. Units that have been on the market for a long time are also great units to try to negotiate for. Caveat being, make sure you know why it's been on the market for a while. Sometimes they're falsely advertised. Maybe there's really bad infrastructure, maybe there's pest problems. So check those out. Don't listen to people who want to be downers. Nothing will ever come from not asking. That's my personal opinion.